So here is a recap of what you read in Chapter 3 in Lesson 1, Visitors from Far Away. Bonjour! That's French for hello. So think back, it's 1620, and the French fur traders have reached Michigan. They came with many wonderful things to trade with the Native Americans. They look different. Their skin's lighter. Their face may have fur on it. At least that's what it looked like to the Native Americans. So they had beards. They might have had beards. They might have had mustaches. They spoke a different language. Would these people be friendly? What are they bringing and what do they want? So many interesting items. The traders came with many new and interesting things to trade with the Native Americans. The Native Americans couldn't make these things and wanted them. Things like metal cooking pots, fancy beads, colored beads, traps, animal traps, rifles, hatchets, colorful cloth to make blankets, gunpowder, and of course, the guns needed the powder and the guns needed the bullets. So they needed these things too. They wanted these things that they didn't have. These were things they could not make because remember, the Native Americans used the land. They used the things around them and they didn't have metal to use. Yes, they had wood, but they didn't have these items, so they wanted them. They were scarce to the Native Americans. What did the French want? Furs. Furs, furs, furs. The Native Americans had what the French wanted, furs. These things were scarce in France. That meant there weren't many of them. Why were they scarce? You would think animals. The problem was they hunted most of those animals, and there weren't enough anymore. They had become scarce. What did they do with those furs? They made things out of them. They sold the furs to make fur hats, fur coats, fur, all kinds of fur things. They used the skin, the leather from the skin. So they could make money. The Native Americans would trade the furs to the French. The French would then sell the furs when they returned back to France to make money for those with those items, so like something could be made from them. So it's all about scarcity. The Native Americans traded furs to the French because it was something they had a lot of and the French needed. So the Native Americans have furs. They trade things that the Native Americans can't make. And it's a cycle. It's also about making choices. Now remember, Gigi and Abek's father, he wanted that long rifle, but he thought, we need new traps and blankets. I can't afford to give up all my furs. In order to get that rifle, the Native Americans, or the fur traders, would give up their rifle if the Native Americans, if Gigi and Abek's father would give up all his furs. And he knew, I can't give up all my furs because we might need some over the winter. And he decides that he's going to give up that rifle and get the traps and the blankets that they need. So sometimes things that were wanted had to be given up for the things that were needed. The item or items that were given up are the opportunity cost. So in that situation, the long rifle was the opportunity cost that Gigi and Abek's father gave up in order to get what they needed. Now your assignment is to answer the questions that are posted in Google Classroom. On page 85 in your textbook, there is a chart that has furs and items, and you're going to need that chart to answer question number 5 when you get to it in Google Classroom. So go to Google Classroom. You'll find your answer sheet document to put your answers on, post it in there, and answer the questions that are there. You will need your textbook to write complete answers with complete sentences. Okay? Get to work.